Today, we're gonna show you how we made the easiest kombucha recipe ever using that iGulu all-in-one brewing machine. Let's get started. Kombucha is believed to have originated in northern China. So this was traditionally brewed as a kind of a sweetened tea, which was then fermented with the various strains of bacteria and yeast. Now, the interesting part where this starts to have a wider role in the more modern world is at the start of the 20th century, it was believed to have been distributed across Russia and Eastern Europe through the trade of the Silk Road. And thanks to modern hippies and hipsters, you can now find it in every supermarket today, like this one right here. Very traditional Chinese medicine. This right here is our kit from iGulu. And if you are not familiar with what these kits are or even what this machine is, think about it as a coffee machine that can dispense beer and kombucha and cider and anything fermented. That's essentially what it is. You add your ingredients, you press start, and then you get to pour out of a tap in your own home some freshly fermented delicious beverages. So in this one right here for the kombucha packet, we have a couple of things. We've got obviously some tea, we have a Scobi, and we have a cotton filtering kit, as well as the raw liquid ingredients that are gonna make the base of our kombucha. So if you're not familiar with what kombucha is, it's basically that fermented tea that we mentioned slightly before this, but the Scobi is the part that really makes or breaks the kombucha, which is a symbiotic culture of bacteria and fungi, kind of like this big slimy gelatinous mass. It's not super appealing, but that slimy thing is the thing that's going to actually ferment the sugars to create the bubbles as well as the flavors that you know today as kombucha. Step number one, we need about 3 liters or 116 ounces of water that is hot, not boiling, but hot. So in Fahrenheit, it's gonna be around 194. In Celsius, it'll be around 90. Just think about what temperature you would use to make tea, because that's basically what this first step is. So we are gonna throw in our hot water, then we're gonna throw in the tea bag kit that accompanies the iGulu kombucha kit. It's also worth noting that you should have sanitized and cleaned this up prior. So if you're just working in a regular kitchen, dish soap and whatever, make sure it's fully rinsed out and fully dried. If you're working in a brewery setting and you make beer, Stella San is excellent for this. Next up, we are gonna add our sugar and our tea. So let's slice open the bag here. This looks to me like raw sugar, granulated raw sugar. It's kind of brownish. I don't know, something like that. We're gonna add our sugar in. That's gonna give us the basis of the fermentables for this kombucha, as well as a little bit of sweetness, clearly. And we're gonna add our big old tea bag. Throw that in. I'm gonna give this a bit of a mix to help that sugar dissolve. And now we need to let this sit for about 15 to 20 minutes, which is basically the time that's gonna take for this giant old tea to brew, as well as for this hot water in here to cool down before we add our Scobi. So we'll cut back to you when it's time to pitch our yeast. It has now been about 20-25 minutes. We did stop to have dinner, but it is time to take out our tea bag. Now, the tea, I was about to say the hot leaf juice, which I guess it technically is, but the tea is still too hot to pitch our Scobi. So what we are gonna do is take the tea bag out and then let this continue to cool down to about 78 degrees Fahrenheit, which is around 25 degrees Celsius. At that point, it will be cool enough for us to pitch our Scobi. We are back. It has been about an hour or so waiting for this to cool down. We popped it in the fridge for a little bit to get it to around 25 to 30 degrees Celsius / 74 degrees-ish Fahrenheit. So it is now time to pitch our Scobi. So as I mentioned earlier, Scobi is kind of a bit of a fancy word for a symbiotic culture of bacteria and fungi, so yeast. This stuff is what gives all the funk and flavor that is kombucha, that slimy thing that you saw right there. And the really cool thing about that slimy oyster looking pancake is that you can reuse that. So after you've used it on an iGulu kit like this, that Scobi culture is the same thing that you make kombucha with in every other style. So you can keep growing that the same way that you would grow a mother yeast, like if you were gonna make a sourdough. So if you wanna learn how to make sourdough, link to that video up there where we make a focaccia. Now, we're gonna close this up with a cotton sheet, I don't know, I guess you'd call it, something like that. the whole purpose behind this is that we are stopping any bugs or anything from getting inside the fermenter here. But we want it to be an open fermentation. We want it to breathe naturally. We want it to be not anaerobic. We want it to be aerobic, because the goal here is not to create a whole bunch of alcohol. The goal here is to ferment, to create flavors and to create carbonation, but not to produce a ton of booze. So all we need to do is close this up as so. Then we throw it into the iGulu up top through there. Pop that all inside. Close the lid on over top so that we don't have anything crawling in there. Now is the really cool part. We can use this RFID code right here, which you can scan onto the machine on the iGulu symbol here. That's gonna load a preset formula for what temperature and what time period this should ferment at. Or if we want to, we can also manually override. So here we can set whatever temperature we want fermentation to be, as well as whatever time period we want it to take over. So in this case, we're gonna run with 26 degrees Celsius at 7 days. At that point, we'll come back and finish the next step of this kombucha making. But for now, all we need to do is click start, and the iGulu machine will do its thing. It has now been a week since we started fermenting the primary fermentation of the kombucha. So what I need to do next is remove the Scobi from inside here and then add our flavoring agent. In this case, we're gonna use juice, apple juice. So I can't really think of a good way to remove this other than whacking on a glove, sanitizing said glove and pulling it out. Maybe use tongs or something. I'm not really sure what the best way is to do this. So I'm just gonna give it a whirl like so. Where are you, Scobi? Come to me. Found you. Ah, dropped it. How do you do this? It's so slippery. Come back. Okay, I got it. I got it. It's a pancake of a thing right now, but gotcha. Now, I'm gonna remove that, put it in a container, which has also been pre-sanitized, because I am gonna wanna use that Scobi later to make more kombuchas. Like I said before, it's like a mother yeast when you make sourdough. You can keep reusing it as long as it's healthy. Now, I want to add my flavoring agent, which in this case is going to be apple juice. So I'm going to go ahead and fill it up to the point where we are at max capacity. I don't really know how much that is. I'm guessing it's about maybe a pint, like half a liter or so. Up to there, looks good. So what this is going to do is A, give us flavoring, but B, it's also going to act as a priming sugar. So now that I've reintroduced fresh sugar into the system, it's going to be able to kick off fermentation again so that we can actually end up with a bubbly product at the end of this. Now go ahead and pop on the lid dip tube thing and then close her up. Now we are making this an airtight container, which means the pressure in here is going to keep building, and that's what's going to carbonate our kombucha for us. I'm going to go ahead and whack this back into the fermenter, reset this to go again, and then in a few more days, we'll have fresh, sparkling, homemade kombucha. Correction, it hasn't been a couple of days, but I totally forgot to look at the instructions before this, because there's actually a really easy way to bubblify your drinks. This iGulu actually has a setting for that. So here we can go to sparkling water, we can hit yes on that, we can hit heavy. We're gonna drop this down to 2 degrees Celsius, hit start, and away we go. Now this is gonna start pumping CO2 into that little that keg, the mini keg, I suppose you could call it, courtesy of the soda stream that sits at the back of this. So this is going to keep forcing that CO2 into the liquid to make it bubbly and carbonated. Now in 24 hours from now, I'm going to have fresh sparkling kombucha, and it's so ridiculously easy. I cannot stress enough how simple this process has been. It is now a few days later, as you can tell by the growth of my fantastic curly mustache. Whoops, I'm spilling bucha. But in my right hand, we have the finished kombucha from the iGulu machine. In my left hand, I have a commercially available kombucha, which is this one right here from Remini, organic, no sugar. This one's a lemon and ginger flavored version, however. So what I wanted to do for you here is just a little bit of a taste test between the two to tell you if this is worth it. So first, let's start with our version. Now, full disclosure, I've tasted this off camera and it's awesome. So as you would know, I flavored this one with fresh, crisp, delicious bilpin apple juice, and my God, this really is just apple juice. It just tastes exactly like the fruit. It's absolutely amazing. I really do understand now how kombucha is just like the healthy version to make soft drinks, because that's what this is. It really does taste like a sparkling apple juice without the alcohol. And the best part is, I guess it's good for my gut, so I'm getting health bonuses whilst I am drinking something delicious. Now, let's go in for the commercial version. Obviously, different flavors. Carbonation's about the same, which is great. That means the unit took care of my bubbling properly. And different flavors, but like just as good, awesome, except I could make this one at home to whatever flavor I want, which is pretty damn cool. Now, the one key difference in the visual appearance is the commercial version is, while still a little bit turbid and cloudy, much more clear than our version, and don't stress about that. That's purely because this one is entirely unfiltered and it hasn't had as much time to drop everything out of suspension the way that the commercially available versions do. I also suspect that the commercial versions use finings like gelatin to drop stuff out of suspension to clear it up more. So if you were so inclined, you could literally just dissolve some cooking gelatin in a little bit of hot water, drop it into the iGulu tank when you hit that final stage of carving it up, and then you'll have a crystal clear version of the exact same drink. All in all, I'm ridiculously impressed with how effective and how well this machine actually produced something that I would be very happy to buy from the local corner shop. It's absolutely awesome. Yeah, can't fault it. It's great. I can't wait actually to make more flavors with this. So let me know in the comments down below what flavors you think I should experiment with. If there's any particular ones that you like to throw into your kombucha, please let me know, because now that I know that I can do this ridiculously easily in this little unit in my own home, I'm gonna be kind of just keeping kombucha on tap from now on. It's the healthy soft drink alternative, so why not? Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next week, cheers, and we'll catch you next time.